Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome back to the weekly reset, Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdom Show, in a week where we're gonna have to have a little talk, you know? Because maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't, and that's fine, but I kinda hope you noticed, that we haven't been making any videos for the last couple of weeks, and the reason for that should be pretty obvious. The ongoing revelations and accusations surrounding the state of California suing Activision Blizzard for harassment and discrimination, which, when we covered it in our last weekly reset episode, we said then that we were gonna need a little bit of time to get our thoughts straight about it all, and whether we want to continue to play World of Warcraft, and indeed make content on World of Warcraft. And it's fair to say that since that episode, Activision Blizzard and the developers on Team 2 who make the game have given us plenty to think about. Now, if you haven't been following events, or if you've been trying and failing to keep up, because we haven't been here to tell you all about it, I know that feeling, then fret not, because here is everything that I can remember off the top of my head. So, as predicted, after the initial case for discrimination was brought, that news acted as a catalyst for a whole smorgasbord of other survivors' stories to come to light. As the lid of this especially rancid tube of shit Doritos popped well and truly the F off, and all of the horror of the accounts detailed in California's case did indeed prove to be the tip of the cessberg, with countless ex and current employees now emboldened to give their own accounts of harassment and discrimination at Blizzard and a whole bunch of other games companies besides. And like we said in the last episode, one of the most insidious things about all of this is that it represents behavior which is rampant across the entire games industry, and indeed every industry, because it's a baked-in societal problem which will not change until society does. But this is a WoW show, and we are going to be talking about the problem specifically in terms of Blizzard today. So, what went down? Well, Blizzard staff staged a company-wide walkout, and newly formed employee group ABetterUbisoft, Activision Blizzard King, published an open letter to CEO Bobby Kotick and the Activision Blizzard executive leadership team with 4 key demands, which very quickly became 5 key demands. Demands that would make not only Blizzard, but again, the whole games industry better. We got tweets at last from Chris Metzen and Mike Morhaime, who want you to know that they are very, very sorry that they didn't stop all the sexual harassment and discrimination. Wow, those guys are heroes. We got J. Allen Brack leaving his position as president of Blizzard, which you'll notice wasn't one of the employee demands, but which was pretty inevitable, since he was one of only 2 people actually named in the suit, having been identified as the guy in charge who didn't do enough to control and punish and fire, just seriously fire, Alex Afrasiabi, even though he was the leader who did eventually fire Alex Afrasiabi after, let's be honest, previous bosses had done nothing except protect that dude's ass for like 12 years or so. Wow, those guys are heroes. But I mean, yeah, his position was pretty untenable. It was only ever a case of whether he would leave now or kept in reserve to leave symbolically later. And it should give you some idea of just what a shitstorm all of this is, that they decided it would be better for him to leave now and be replaced by the new co-leadership duo of Mike Ibarra and Jen O'Neill, who both seem pretty okay, I guess. Ibarra was at least on the employee walkout, and OMG, you guys, he does plus 20 mythic keys! One of us! One of us! Although I feel like I want to point out that you don't actually get to say he's one of us unless you also run plus 20 keys every week, like for fun. Anyway, both of them have spoken out in the past about the importance of not harassing women in their place of work, so that's a start, I guess. Now, it has been pointed out that every new appointment gets a less important job title. Mike Morhaime was Blizzard's CEO, Brack was president, Ibarra and O'Neill are co-leaders, which does seem to suggest that Blizzard's independence from Activision might be eroding over time, which will probably suck for Blizzard games. But also, in terms of this conversation, who cares? That's a discussion for another day. I think in a conversation about how staff are getting harassed and discriminated against, talk about any perceived quality of the games is at best irrelevant and at worst crass. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So let's take a look at those employee demands? Well, good news everyone, because I've only just started and we can tick one of them off straight away, because Fran Townsend did step down from her position as sponsor of the ABK Women's Network after CEO Bobby Kotick issued a statement calling her response to the case tone deaf. You remember Fran, don't you? We talked about her last time, the literal George W. Bush government torture apologist who sent an email to staff in the wake of the discrimination case going public, which basically said, guys, trust me, if any of these allegations were true, I would never have joined Activision Blizzard 4 months ago, but I did join, so your allegations must be false. I haven't seen any bad behavior in the 4 months I've been with the company, during which time everyone has been working from home, so shut up. And also, we are listening. And also, torture is fine. I might be getting some of her different statements mixed up here, but you get the idea. And then, a day or two after that absolute floater, she retweeted an article about the trouble with whistleblowing, which is so hilariously moustache-twirlingly awful that if Steve Danusa had written this as a storyline, you'd all be shitting blood in the forums about how completely unbelievable it is. But I promise this is not a fever dream, it is real. And yeah, I guess tone deaf is one way of putting it. A lot of Blizzard employees obviously had some words to say about this, and Townsend spent that Saturday night blocking a whole bunch of female employees who work for the company that she is acting as sponsor of the Employee Women's Network for, before eventually deleting her Twitter profile. And I feel like it's probably worth pointing out here that in the mid-2000s, the entire weight of the international community disagreeing with her about whether torture is okay or not, and just to remind you, she was the one saying it was okay, was not enough to make Fran Townsend back down. But one afternoon of getting tweets from pissed off female Team 2 devs was. But let's not suck each other off yet though, because Fran Townsend is still employed by Activision. She's part of the CEO class. She's untouchable. But a tick is a tick, and that is a tick. And we are on a roll because ABK did also agree to a third-party audit of ABK's reporting structure, HR, and executive staff. Another victory! But the company that they are using is Ian Hazakostas' old law firm, WilmerHale, who apparently are quite famous for, specifically, union busting. Also, there's a legitimate worry that WilmerHale aren't exactly an independent third party, and there could, in fact, be a conflict of interest since ABK are massive regular clients of theirs, and multiple members of their board are known to have close relations with Fran Townsend, including Robert Mueller. And you know, I'm beginning to think that Fran Townsend is not one of us, you know? Like, I bet she's never run a single +20 is all I'm saying. I bet she would consider a +5 absolute torture, and therefore actually okay. Sponsors dropped Overwatch League. Shareholders launched their own securities claim investigation against Blizz for misleading them about the allegations. Lots of people have been made to leave the company, including the head of HR, and many of those in the infamous Cosby Suite photo. Because when you are so certain that you will avoid any kind of consequence for your actions, you do really outrageously brazen things, like naming the hotel room that you filled with alcohol and talk about luring female fans and employees to try and have sex with them, the Cosby Suite. And then, if you're an especially snivelling piece of shit, when you get called out on that years later, you say, "Oh, me? No, I had no idea that Bill Cosby was associated with doing bad stuff with women and drinks specifically. No, we just called it that because of the hotel carpet in the room where we tried to get women drunk and take advantage of them." Seriously, f*** every single one of these guys. Them. The SOC Investment Group sent a formal letter to the lead independent director of Activision Blizzard to address the deep and widespread issues with equity, inclusion, and human capital management at the company. And yeah, I guess that's good, but there's something about that term, human capital, that doesn't fill me with confidence. It's just a bit matrixy for me, like your humans are on the same asset sheet as your staplers or photocopy machines, you know? And you're probably thinking, don't be so precious, Tally, that's just how corporations talk. To which I would say, yes, that is exactly why all corporations are bad and evil. Yes, literally every single one of them. Throw them all and their parasitic bullshit into the sun. The only human capital we talk about around here is Stormwind, okay? I've missed this. Haven't you missed this? It's good to be back. And you've probably guessed by now, and you're right, no other demands have had any kind of response at all. But the weight of public opinion is definitely with the Blizzard staff right now. They've received public support from employees at Ubisoft and Riot, who are fighting their own similar battles, and there is a genuine tingle in the air that something might, maybe, be about to change. Not unionization, obviously, because this is the US we're talking about here, but some kind of genuine improvement in the way things are done and the way some of the most famously badly exploited labor in development is treated. It's all been a bit of a blur in many ways, but also kind of great. Obviously, not everyone who has questions to answer will ever have to answer questions. Obviously, not all justice will be served, not all voices will be heard, and not all shit will be cleaned up. But Blizzard is a better place right now than it was last time I was on your screen, than it was the very first time I was ever on your screen. And that, basically, is thanks to the staff and the stand that many of them have made. And I know a few of them personally, a few of them I call genuine friends, and I just want to say, I'm really proud of them. I mean, just imagine if the unimaginable happened and all of this somehow did spark a change in the industry. Imagine if games companies actually stopped being the absolute state that they are now, and imagine that it was Activision Blizzard who were at the forefront of that change. We can dream, but it does bring us back to the same old question, doesn't it? Is it okay to play WoW now? I mean, assuming you want to play WoW, and I am firmly in the camp of people that have found it a much less exciting prospect recently than usual because of all of this. I haven't really been playing beyond raid logging and keeping up with the Covenant campaign quests, which is exactly why this is the first video we've made in over 2 weeks, because I'm not really going to make videos about a game that I'm not playing, you know? Life's too short for that. But assuming that you do want to play, should you? Is it okay? Is it morally acceptable? Are you supporting harassment and discrimination by handing over your hard-earned to a company that might well be spending that cash on union-busting law firms that will crush their helpless workers underfoot? Basically, is all of this your fault? Well, is it? Last episode, I expressed my desire for empathy in whatever decision people took regarding their approach to this. And I stick by that, but more so, having now had 2 weeks to talk to protesting staff members and even some victims in the case, because there is a reason why no WoW dev has called for a boycott on Blizzard games. Quite apart from the fact that traditionally discriminated against labour would be the first to go in the case of job losses from cutbacks, there's also the sense that if they are still in their jobs, then they've already put up with all of this shit in their job just trying to make the game that they like. And they did that because they are proud of their work and because they love WoW and they want the players to enjoy it too. They don't want Blizzard to burn down. I do, but they don't. They want to flush the toilet and wash away the sewage. They want to just be able to do their job without some bro dude harassing or discriminating against them. And there's the sense that if they leave working on this game that they love because of a bunch of arseholes at the company, then that just leaves the arseholes, right? And I can relate to that as a player because yes, as someone who likes to think that I care about a lot of these issues of workers' rights and equality and representation, then obviously all of these revelations and allegations have made my skin crawl and made me not want to play the game. And that is a perfectly normal and acceptable reaction to have. But there is a part of me which thinks, well, if I and everyone else who cares about this stuff abandons WoW, then that just leaves people who don't care about this stuff. And man, there are plenty of them around, for sure. More than one Blizzard developer has been on the receiving end of pretty disgusting abuse and harassment from huge swathes of the community in the last couple of weeks for basically nothing at all. And let's be clear, even if they had said something incredibly shitty, that still wouldn't be a good enough reason to harass them. And before you butt me by harassment, I mean spamming DMs, trying to get them in trouble with their employer, attempting to hack their accounts, doxing and harassing family members. That's the kind of thing that's been happening, and that is never okay ever, but especially in the wake of all of this, because nothing says I support Blizzard employees in their fight against discrimination and harassment than harassing Blizzard employees online. Am I right, fellas? When Wowhead turn off comments on their articles on this subject, many of which we're linking below for you to peruse at your leisure, as always, because they've done some really good reporting throughout this ordeal, but when Wowhead have to turn off comments, that should be a sign that we as a community aren't exactly covering ourselves in glory here either, you know? Because seriously, Have you seen comments on Wowhead? Do you have any idea what it takes for comments to get turned off on Wowhead? And you know, this is just a side note, it's not even important, but I do kind of make my living off those comments, so having them switched off is a literal danger to my livelihood, and I think we can all agree that's the real tragedy here. Just don't do it, okay? Like, if you're tempted to do a harassment, just stop for a minute, count to 10, then don't do the harassment. It sucks how shit this community is capable of being, but honestly, this community is important to me and has helped me through some really tough times and given me loads of pleasure. It's made me some of the best friends I've ever had, and I don't really want to hand it over to the kind of people that harass the 9-year-old daughter of a woman who said something they didn't like online. Now, that's not to say that you should give a shit about that, obviously, and if you don't want to play a video game because the company that makes it is awful, or just because you don't like it, then you don't owe anyone an explanation for that. But that is one of the reasons why I am here, behind this desk, recording this episode of the Weekly Reset right now. Because I am hopeful for the chance of change at Blizzard. I am cautiously optimistic that things will change slightly for the better. I'm still a fan, and for the time being at least, I'm happy to keep making videos where we tell you about the news surrounding WoW and make stupid jokes. Sometimes we might make a video telling you about the lore or cinematics and make stupid jokes. I've always hated Blizzard as a corporation because I hate all corporations. Like, seriously, all of them, they're all terrible. But I do love this game and the people who play it and a whole lot of the people who make it. Having said that though, I promised you a reveal about the future of this channel. I mean, I might have done. I'm thinking about making it a part of the title, but I don't know, I might not. Maybe you weren't expecting a reveal at all, but you're getting one. And after taking time off and talking about this a lot between ourselves, I think Evie and I both would like to start making the odd video here and there about other games. Not reviews or news videos really, but I guess essays. I watch a whole lot of video essays about games, and I think if we've got something that we'd like to talk about, then it would actually be really nice at the moment to be able to make videos about, say, how you could make the Praetorium in Final Fantasy XIV much better, or why exactly the storytelling in Heavenswood is so great, or why there's a really simple thing in Skyrim that you can't do and that it's actually really weird that you can't, or that Avatar The Last Airbender video that I've always wanted to make, or all the characters in Divinity 2 Original Sin ranked by how much I like their hair, or a study and analysis of colonial imagery in New World, and just stuff like that, which we already dabble with on Twitch. So if you don't mind, like maybe once a month, you might see some of those pop up on this channel. I can't imagine many people will watch them, but they will make me very happy to make them, so I hope that's okay. TLDR, basically, yeah, still doing WoW stuff, hi, especially the Weekly Reset, because I love this desk so much, and, you know, we printed out this backdrop, it'd be a shame not to use it, but probably gonna start throwing in some random other bits and bobs into the mix too. But all of that is in the future, because since the Weekly Reset is back, I think it's about time we talk some WoW news again, don't you? So, this last week saw the conclusion of the 9.1 Covenant campaign with the What Lies Ahead questline, which brings to a close what, for me, personally, has been the absolute highlight of Chains of Domination so far. And I like Chains of Domination, okay? Yeah, it's not perfect, Domination shards are trash, but everyone knew that the second they were announced. It sucks, but there we go. I've been having like a surprisingly great time in the raid, even though we are stuck hard on Fate Scribe on Heroic right now, because it's a fight that demands coordination and communication and personal responsibility, and therefore might as well have been grown in a vat to be a fight that basically my guild will never ever beat. But I don't even care, because I'm having a ball. I like Korthia, even though, like I say, with everything going on, I have barely touched it in 3 weeks. I get the feeling next time I venture that way, it's just going to be all of the elites wading through thousands of unlooted treasures, and Popo still won't have made his deliveries, and quite right, because where I come from, you never help the Popo. I've even enjoyed Torghast plenty since the changes, to be honest, so I am firmly in the 9.1 is a pretty good patch, actually, camp. I know not everyone agrees, that's fine. The Covenant campaign, though, that has been great. Like, every chapter, an absolute banger. Tying up loose ends and setting up new arcs and events, substantial questing gameplay, and really nice character development, and it's just kind of got better every week. The Primus into Thrall and Draka, into the Dreadlords and Mal'Ganis, into Elune, and yeah, I know a lot of people hate the Elune stuff. We made a video about it, and I really like her presentation as an extremely fallible, non-omnipotent god. I found the whole thing very moving, to be honest, but I get that it splits people. Into into the Uther chapter, which I never even got to talk about, which was brilliant. Quite apart from all the terrific new lore that came with it, being able to indulge in his past and how his experience and the lessons that he's learning right now help change the Kyrian and bring the Forsworn back on board, all topped off with a brilliant Smurf Lord party at the end where you can talk to basically everyone and they all remind you of how you helped them throughout the story so far. It's just lovely and I loved it. And now the climax, set explicitly after the events of the raid, where we investigate Anduin's compass that he left behind and watch a stored memory in a cutscene which shows us that Anduin is still Anduin, not corrupted, just controlled like an edgy emo meat puppet, but not even most of the time though. And you know me, internet, I've spent my fair share of time mocking some of these in-game cutscenes before now, due to the fact that in the past they can make your average CW show look like Infinity War. But I have got to take my hat off to the team here because they have been continually upping their game for like the last 4 years now, and this is their best work yet. They made a whole new emotional Sylvanas face for the in-game cutscene. The lip syncing actually kind of fits, actually, and I'm pretty sure that the music is especially arranged for the scene. Whatever this team's budget, quadruple it and have them make 3 times as many of these because they are legit. As far as story delivery knows, I know that there's grumblings about the time-gated nature of the quests, and I do understand that criticism. In many ways, I agree with it. But also, I have to say that I have enjoyed having new story content to look forward to every week. It's been considerably more satisfying than my Great Vault, put it that way. I still believe that all shield quests should be skippable on alts without question as standard. Great as they are, my heart sinks a little bit when I have to do them again, and will this be fun to repeat on alts should never ever be something that writers should have to bother thinking about. But overall, there is a sense of resolution that I like, and pretty explicit hints at where we are going next. And why. I still would have liked a more dramatic announcement of what's happening next, and the fact that no one mentioned Blue-Eyed defeated and captured Sylvanas at all in that last chapter was a bit weird, but I think overall I would count the Covenant campaigns, and for the most part the story that they told, as a massive win. I guess it's just a shame that they're over, because this new reset will be the first with no new quest content since the patch launched, which means we are kind of officially in the 9.2 waiting room now, right? We're on the repeatable content as the only content stage of the patch, which is fine. That happens to every patch. It's just that that was an especially long part of 9.0, and so I think there is understandably something of a fatigue among players at the thought of this patch's version. Whatever happens next though, we will be here to keep you updated with all of the latest WoW goings on, in and out of the game. Personally, I'm really looking forward to more recognizable episodes of this show going forward, and I know I've said this already, but honestly, it's good to be back.